It's been said that advertising is the price you pay for being unremarkable. So, in our crowded market space for healthcare, for consumer product goods, how do you stand out? How are you going to become remarkable? Well, one of the ways to do that is to have a good online reputation. And social media is of utmost importance because social media has become the petri dish of first world problems. Whenever we have an issue, we go to social media to complain. And there's no one better to help us, healthcare providers, urologists, deal with this problem than someone who's been in this space for many years. And her name is AngieMKays. She's a digital marketing consultant, and she's worked in different companies before. She's currently working with a medium-sized company. And unfortunately, her schedule is full. Her coaching schedule is full. But I'm very grateful that she is taking the time to share awesome tips and tricks on how we handle angry, unhappy patients and negative reviews. So thank you so much for coming on the program, Angie. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. God, just so you guys know, we've gone back and forth. Like, we're also in a group together, and I've seen a lot of things that John has said or done, and I agree with a lot of his principles. So when he asked, if I could take some time to do this, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's jump on and, go back and forth and help some people out.
So first of all, congratulations on your recent nuptials and
Thanks.
just in March, and then here you are helping people out. So you truly had that heart of a teacher, of a giver.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I'm super passionate about is business with heart, or like giving back. I really believe not just like with this, but with everything in your business, like anytime you can give to somebody else, you will get that back. Like, it comes back. I don't know how it works, karma, universe, energy, whatever it is, but I know that for a fact. Like, if I help you guys today, something will happen good for me, a year from now or whatever.
Yeah, it's I think Robert Cialdini said it's the reciprocity principle. We are humans. We're hardwired to reciprocate. If I give you something, you feel like you feel obligated. For most people, you feel obligated to reciprocate in kind. So I think that reciprocity principle is definitely key. And those who understand that, who can leverage that, is going to be just really ahead of the game. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, please feel free to ask any questions in the comments, and we'll be happy to address those as they come through. So tell us briefly about your experience in dealing with healthcare and healthcare professionals.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of go way back, I came from insurance. A lot of people don't know this, or actually some of my old clients, they still call for insurance advice, but I had an insurance agency for like 10 years that I was an insurance agent. Went from one agency to another one. The last 5 years or so, we're at Liberty Mutual. But then at some point, I was like, I don't want to be tied to a desk anymore. This isn't the future that I envisioned for myself. My fiance is from another country. I want to be able to travel, right? So I got rid of my agency. I started traveling and doing marketing, because the whole time I had been getting clients, I had been doing it with online networking and marketing. Started
What
helping other people, and I moved to a company from there.
Wonderful. And I know for us urologists and those of us in healthcare, we envy what the dentists are doing. Whenever we say, why aren't we doing things like what the dentists are doing? So we sort of kind of look up to the dentists when it comes to business, marketing, and things like that. And you kind of your firm specializes in dentistry and ortho, right?
Yes, yeah, dentistry and ortho, that is my like niche right now. It has been for the last year and a half. I've been like eat, sleep, breathing, dental marketing. So I've gotten super intimate within their, industry, and that's probably what I'm most knowledgeable on at this moment. Before that, it was plastic surgeons and med spas. So, similar in ways that people probably wouldn't imagine, because you look at aesthetics like it's a commodity, and you don't have to have it, it's not for medical necessity. But there's a lot in plastic surgery that kind of crosses over with dentistry, that probably crosses over with urology as well.
I think, yeah, well, for urologists, there's a shortage of us. There's a shortage of urologists. So I always preface things by saying that no, you don't need to do any of this stuff. But if you potentially could face competition from either a large hospital system, or if you are in a very densely populated urban area where you have competition, if you will, then it would behoove you to help yourself stand out. And also, I think a lot of urologists think that you have to be all things to everybody, to all people. You don't have to. You can pick and choose. So in marketing, you create initially, when you have the initial consult, you want to create that avatar, right? The avatar of that ideal customer, ideal patient.
Yep.
In urology, it's the same. It's the same. And I think a lot of urologists don't realize that you don't need to be all things to all people.
Right.
And how, in order to get to that ideal avatar, the ideal patient that you enjoy seeing, that you don't mind seeing all day and all night, the way to get there is it's through marketing.
It's through branding. It's through making yourself established as, that's who you want. And then those people come to you because they know you are there and you're attracting them. But it's interesting too, like one thing you said, you're like, oh, we don't have to do some of these things yet, which is absolutely true. But the problem is that time when you do have to start doing it, it sneaks up on you. Because like all of a sudden you don't know you needed it until it's maybe too late, until everybody else is already doing it. And then you're like, whoa, I'm behind the curve. That's what you try to avoid by doing things like this, like what you're doing, staying in front of it,
What a lot of people, I mean, last year and currently what's going on, the pandemic really caught everybody, a lot of people with their pants down. You were not prepared. And a lot of people, what is there's a phrase about luck, how you create luck. Well, luck is being prepared when the opportunity presents itself. You're lucky because you have been working out those muscles so that when the opportunity comes, you already know how to do it. Whereas here's the opportunity, number one, you don't recognize it. Number two, you don't know how to do it. I'll give you a great example. When Facebook first IPO'd, I thought, I really want to buy Facebook stock, but I didn't know how to. I had an E-Trade account, but I didn't know how to buy or trade stocks, individual stocks. So I missed out on the opportunity. So now, recently, the last several years, I've been buying Facebook stock, but at a much higher premium. And so that's the cost of not being ready when the opportunity presents itself. And same thing with marketing. Yeah, and same thing with having an online presence. Same thing with marketing. A lot of people don't realize that this is now the digital currency, your online reputation.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You use Facebook as an example. I think all the time about Bitcoin. And when I first heard about Bitcoin, and I like almost vividly remember having a conversation with somebody I know through networking. We were sitting down for coffee or whatever, and he was talking to me about blockchain. And honestly, I was like, I don't invest in things I don't understand. I said that phrase, and I feel like that phrase will haunt me for the rest of my life, because if I would have invested, in Bitcoin or those wallets or whatever back then, we wouldn't even probably have this conversation, because I just live on an island permanently, like sipping out of a coconut. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So being ready is key, and having that digital presence is key. Say that you have that digital presence, the downside. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. You can have a presence or you can have no presence. It doesn't matter if you do or not. People are still going to complain about you and your brand. So that is, it's really difficult for dentists, for people in healthcare to deal with this problem, because we are kind of hamstrung by HIPAA. We can't really say, you know what, you're full of it. This is completely wrong. You're presenting the wrong information. We can't even really acknowledge that they were a patient of ours. So that is the difficult part. How do you deal with that angry patient, and also what happens when they write that review? Yeah.
So it's super interesting. We must be on the same wavelength, because I made just, a couple notes about things I want to make sure I touched on today. But the very first thing was being prepared for your reviews. And what I mean by that, it's not like, you're sitting there and you're ready for like the hand grenades to come in and you're prepared for war, but you're prepared like you have asked other people and you already have good reviews there, because there will be a day you're going to get a negative review, whether or not it's like that person is wrong, they made it up, they're crazy, they're an old employee. I mean, you hear every reason under the sun that they did it, but you're going to get it someday. It maybe, and this is hard for people to admit, but maybe you did do something wrong. Maybe they did have a bad experience at the practice. The thing is, one bad review is not going to kill you if you have 100 good ones before that. You have 10 good ones before that. One bad review is absolutely going to kill you if you have a private practice and you have no other reviews. Now, guess what? You got a 1-star review on Google. Other people are not coming to you when they see that 1 star. That's all you got, right? So you got to be prepared. gotta ask, you gotta like get ready for the time where more people are going to be checking those reviews. Ask your, people that are coming in regularly, your patients that love you, your raving fans, ask them to give those reviews before you get yourself in a situation. Like you said, there's a saying my husband actually taught me, it's from Finland, it's super funny, but the saying is, there's no point to not try to shit your pants when you already have shit in your pants. So, don't get caught with shit in your pants. Like, have the good reviews, and you're not going to run into that issue.
I love the analogies from different foreign countries. Same thing with being Asian. My
Yeah.
parents have these sayings that I just don't find the same idioms in English, but it's the principle's the same. And what you said is key. We focus on the negative reviews or the negative patient and the angry patient who writes these negative reviews, but we need to be more importantly, we need to concentrate on gathering positive reviews, and that's where a lot of people goof. They don't take the time, they don't spend the energy to gather the digital currency of positive reviews.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I see it all the time where it's like, okay, that doesn't help me because I didn't get positive reviews and now I have this bad review. So what can I do to mitigate that? And I'm like, well, your hands are tied now. Your hands are tied. You can fight with Google, try to get it removed. You can try to find out who that person is. You can, comment on there to the best of your ability, hope that you can rectify the situation in some way, shape, or form, that they will either remove or increase your stars on the review they've given, edit it, whatever. Those are your options once the review is there. If you have a ton of good reviews, or you don't even really need a ton, I mean, if you had 5 good reviews for every 1 bad review, you've already done your damage control. That's it. You already did it, because now you're not going to like lose sleep at night over this 1 bad review that's leaving you with 1 star. Now you've got 4.5 stars and 1 bad review and 5 good ones. It's a balance.
Any strategies on that you found to have Google remove just completely libelous type of reviews?
Yeah, if the name doesn't match like a patient in your database, you've never heard of this person before, then report it and say those things. It is my understanding. Now, Google and like Facebook, they change their algorithms and they change the way their employees remove these things. I would probably say it has to be monthly, if not weekly or something like that. So things that worked last year probably don't work this year, 3 years ago, etc. But as of right now, they will remove reviews from fraudulent accounts. So what that does that they didn't have before is, if I go on and make an account for John Smith and then write a negative review about your practice, and you go in and you report it, hey, I don't have a John Smith, I think this is a fake account. Google will look at that email and the account, and if it is a fake account, like it just was created, there's no phone number, email, whatever on the back end, they'll remove that review for you, and they're pretty quick. You usually do it within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, that's good to know. Boy, I can just imagine some bot somewhere that you can pay to create all these accounts, and then all of a sudden you have just all 1-star reviews without any comments. Just 1-star reviews, a whole bunch of them, all of a sudden, overnight, 24 hours, and then just kind of tanks your online reputation.
There are businesses that have gone out of business, like marketing companies, dirty companies, right? There are some, and some of them that are still around, we're all familiar with. We use it to review restaurants, you know what I'm saying? But that will absolutely, they did things like that in the past. So they would go through, and if you wouldn't give money for marketing, or you wouldn't do whatever that it is that they wanted, all of a sudden you have these really negative reviews popping up. It's like, it's not a coincidence. I mean, they did it to you, but there was not much you could do at that point. They pretty much stopped a lot of those predatory practices for medium and small businesses, though, by doing this thing that they have now, where if it's a fake account, they can remove that review.
Yeah, and just to go back a little bit, I'll give you a case example. I was on a date night last night, and we were walking by. Our initial restaurant was booked, and they didn't have any reservations until 9:30 and 9:45 at night. So we started walking down the street to look for another restaurant. We see one restaurant, it's a tap house. The first thing she did was go on Google, look up the reviews, 3.3 stars. She said, we're not even going to try. We're not even going to go there, just based on that one interaction, just looking at the reviews. So to poo-poo Google reviews, no matter what you do, I don't care what kind of business you're in, it could be a side gig or it could be your urology practice, I think you're fooling yourself.
Yep, I agree. I completely agree. I mean, anything that you do now as a consumer, I feel like I check Google or I check the reviews if you're vacationing, if you're traveling, especially for medical. if it's something serious where I'm about to be invested or my health is on the line or I'm going, not only am I checking reviews, but if you're talking about something like, I don't even know, I mean, your body, for me, that's like, I'm checking their page, I'm making sure it's up to date, I'm looking at like all sorts of stuff on there. Whereas maybe 5 years ago, we didn't have that mentality. Now I'm like, well, any legitimate business, that's what I think in my mind, any legitimate business is taking care of this stuff.
And a lot of us in urology would think, well, we take care of a lot of older people problems, and these older patients are probably not online anyway. Well, anecdotally, last week, first of all, that's false. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, 78-year-old lady yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, this past week. I always ask my patients, how did you find me? Right? And she said, oh, I checked you online. I looked at the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
If the older patient is not the one checking reviews or finding you online, it's their kids who are looking you up online, making the recommendation, or maybe making the appointment itself for their elderly parents to go there.
100% accurate. And it's funny too, a lot of older people, they aren't really able to articulate like where they see you online. They'll just say things like, you're like, where'd you find me? I don't know, I found you online. But it could have been anywhere online. It could have been Facebook, it could have been an advertisement, it could have been Google, it could have been Bing. Bing installs itself on PCs, so it's actually, the second most used search engine. Could have been anywhere, right? So it's just funny because they come in and then a lot of people think, well, I don't have to worry about it because my demographic's older. Well, guess what? They don't take care of a lot of their stuff anymore. Their kids do. And their kids at this point are now on the beginning side of millennials and like generation, Z or whatever X, but whatever generation it is, but they're doing it for their parents now. So you do have to worry about it because, and I can tell you from my parents and my experience with them and their health issues, I will absolutely look something up and be like, this doctor has bad reviews. I wouldn't go there. Cancel that appointment. Go somewhere else. Your insurance is going to pay for it either way.
Yeah, definitely. So now what happens? Okay, so say you've done your homework, you gather positive reviews as counter to negative reviews. And I tell people that really the only counter you have against negative reviews is positive reviews, because most of your patients are going to be happy with you. But it takes effort, it takes energy, it takes resources to gather these reviews. Well, let's jump back real quick. How would you advise your clients to get positive reviews? Because during our prior interaction, you said you helped a client obtain 600 reviews as starting a business in 1 year, which is amazing.
Yeah.
First of all, what kind of business and how did you do it?
Dentist and text message. So anytime somebody leaves the practice, hey, how are things? Give us a review. Here's a link. It's super easy because it's right there in their phone and the link is there for them. People are lazy. I mean, I'm lazy. Like if somebody doesn't give it to me, I'm not going out to find it. I'm not going to do you a favor and then hunt you down where I need to like write this review. It just goes out. It's when people ask like, how do you get reviews? I really want to be like, it's honestly not rocket science. It's just a matter of doing it. Like just asking for them, even if you don't have the software or the text messaging that you can do to set it up to be automatic like that, physically asking every single patient, how are things today? Your, front desk staff or whoever's checking them out, your treatment coordinator, whatever it is, having them ask every single patient, how are things today? We would really appreciate a Google review. We really appreciate a review from you. If you're able, are you able to log on? I see you have your phone. Can you log in and do a review for us real quick? Even just doing that, you're going to get reviews out of those things. Put a sign on your door, like these little subtle hints will help you, but asking is really the key there.
So you said there's automation.
Yeah.
What type of automation would you recommend?
Yeah, so I am most familiar with software. We white label it. It's called Patient Gym, but you can buy into it as well. Let's go high level. It's just a CSM software, and ultimately there are softwares out there similar to this where they can integrate with your patient database. And you can set it up to where that software will house a calendar and you set a trigger to where anytime an appointment, that day and time, an hour after that appointment, a text goes out to them. So, just keep it really simple. That's probably the simplest way I can explain it. More complex than that, obviously, there's like coding and there's other like little features that you could plug into some of your databases. Some other people don't have databases that they can do that with because, God, some of the software for the office, like practice management softwares, are so hit and miss. Some of you have really awesome, some of them aren't up to date. They're old softwares and they won't integrate with these type of things.
So what were the names of the software?
Yeah, so there's one popular one called Dolphin that I always think about. I remember that because it's Dolphin. I feel like that's a funny name for a practice management software, but it's out there and it's a good one. There's another one that I've been like, dealing with a lot. It's Denta, is it Denta MX, I think. Dentamix.
So they integrate with practice management software.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
no, those two that I just named are practice management softwares.
Oh,
the
okay, got it.
software that integrates with those, you're probably going to look at something like Go High Level is a really good one for that.
Go High Level. Okay,
Go
interesting.
High Level, yeah.
Interesting.
The company that I worked for bought in and white labeled that software and made it HIPAA compliant.
Got it.
It's called Patient Gym. But to get your hands on that software, it involves like going through the company. So you might just look for Go High Level. If not, if you have questions, reach out to you and I can point people in direction to how to get that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Software like that's like, we'll send automated text messages. You can do email follow-ups. You can do newsletters to your patients. You can set up triggers to where all your Facebook messages and leads and everything come into one like central location, download it as an app on your phone, your iPad, whatever. Those types of softwares, the actual good ones, those are probably going to run you somewhere between $200 and $400 a month.
There are also software packages or programs or some setup like Relation, I believe, Lighthouse 360, Patient Pop, and I believe Phreesia, Phreesia, also has integration with a lot of the practice management software that can not only handle these reviews, but also patient reminders and things like that, and patient intake.
Yeah, so, Patient Pop is one too that I have a lot of practices that they will use Patient Pop. I haven't ever put my hands on Patient Pop, so I couldn't tell you like good, bad, indifferent, whatever, but I know they like it. So I would say it's probably a good software because I haven't heard anybody complain. And I can tell you when somebody complains, then I know, things are bad.
So it's interesting. You said, okay, well, I mean, this is very similar to reality practice situation. When somebody complains, then when somebody's unhappy, they complain more, and then they'll tell more people, right? The old adage is they'll tell 10 people, whereas you have happy patients or clients or customers, they maybe tell nobody. They tell nobody. They're just happy.
They just exist, and they're like, that was great. On to the next,
We because of social media, because of the age in which we live, we have become a hypercritical society. And this is truly a first world problem.
Yeah.
Social media is truly the petri dish of first world problems.
It is. And you can complain about anything. And like, we all see the reviews, right? That person's crazy. And you kind of know they're crazy. And I actually have like a philosophy where I'm like, okay, having a couple negative reviews from a crazy person that's like so off the wall, that legitimizes your business a little bit. Like, you have a bunch of good ones and you get some weird ones in there, people are like, they're normal. That person was weird, right? So like those are okay. But some of the things people complain about, like if you ever go to a restaurant and they're like, the beef was supposed to be medium and I would put it at a medium plus slight, and you're like, they're like 2 stars. Restaurants get the worst of it when it comes to those reviews, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's even more important for them to make sure that they have a lot of positive reviews to counter those negative reviews. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Say that, okay, you do everything that you did everything you could, you gather all these positive reviews, you've done your homework, you're ready, and then so a negative review comes in. What are some of the strategies that you can provide on how to respond to these negative reviews? Say it comes in from the most popular, which is Google My Business.
They put it up there. It's a regular patient. They're not a crazy person. They had a poor experience, right? So the first thing that you want to do is acknowledge whatever they're saying. And you don't want to come off like, sure, whatever. Call us if you need, if you want to chat. That's like the worst thing you can do. Back in the day, there was this whole philosophy of like, take it offline, which is still true to an extent, but just saying, hey, here's our phone number, feel free to give us a call, is not like everybody and their brother can see that you really gave like a half-assed response on that. The first thing you want to do is acknowledge whatever they're saying. If I was writing a bad review about your practice and my review says something like, I had to wait an extra hour and a half in the waiting room and I took off work and this is unpaid time off for me. I really didn't have the time to give in the first place. And here I am waiting an extra hour and a half. I'm so unhappy, whatever. It would be really important that the first thing you say is like, I can't believe you had to wait an hour and a half, because you're acknowledging like, I hear you, I see you, like, I get it, whatever you're saying, you know? So you acknowledge it. And then I think you should validate their concern if you did something wrong. Now, if you didn't do anything wrong and it's like a crazy person review, then we'll go a different direction than that in a minute. But let's say they really did have to wait an hour and a half. It was unusual, but they had a poor experience. So it would be important that you acknowledge that and then you validate. You know, I would never want to wait an hour and a half. I completely understand where you're coming from. Just like a relationship, just like you would talk to your husband, wife, partner, etc., it's really important that this relationship that you have is visible in your response to these complaints. So you acknowledge it, you validate their concern. If you did something wrong, you need to apologize for what it was. I would never want to wait an hour and a half. I'm truly sorry. I can't imagine, waiting an hour and a half, and I, never want to put you through that again, right? You need to apologize. And this is the hard part, I think, for a lot of practices, is to swallow that pill and say that we did have a hand in what went wrong here today. I think a lot of negative reviews for medical comes back to things like office staff and insurance. It really does. So many times, especially about the insurance. It's like, they said this would be covered and it wasn't. They said this and it wasn't, and blah, blah, blah. Well, did you say that? No, you're the doctor. You're busy. You're taking care of patients. Somebody from your desk probably wasn't paying attention, or they were like, oh, United Healthcare. I know. I remember that was covered one time before, and just, yeah, sure. They're busy. They're doing stuff. Okay, well, they gave the wrong information and it wasn't covered. Or the insurance company, they suck, right? I don't work for them anymore. The insurance companies suck. Like, you called, went through their insurance ID card. They said that they would cover this much. You submit the bill. They don't.
I frankly tell people that insurance companies lie.
They do.
Intentionally or unintentionally, they lie.
They do. And they have those people that work in the call centers. They're nice humans, or good humans. I know some of them, from back in the day when I had my practice and whatever. But the truth is, some of those people come and go out of there. They might be working there for a few months and leave, and their job does not matter to them. And so they don't care if they give wrong information. They just don't. But guess what? Do you have a hand in that information that was misconstrued to the patients? Yeah, unfortunately. Was the insurance company probably 95% responsible? Yeah, but your front desk and you maybe, and by extent, yes. So you should apologize for that. If you didn't do anything wrong, I think that it's also important that you acknowledge what they're saying, but you don't apologize for what you did not do wrong, because you don't need to be sorry that the landscaper was cutting grass and Miss Susan stepped on grass outside and ruined her white shoes. Like, yeah, I understand, getting grass on your white shoes is a bummer. Make sure you watch where you step, but no, really, you don't need to apologize for the things that you didn't do or were completely out of your control, right? But you do need to apologize for the things that have gone wrong. And then you need to offer some sort of solution. So this is where people get really nervous with HIPAA, is like, do I even say they were a patient, or do I even say that I can do X, Y, and Z? So for a medical practice, when you're like offering a solution and, giving an apology, you don't want to be specific about their case. Your apology should be something like, I'm really sorry for that experience. Period. They said they had the experience and you're apologizing for that experience, right? So that's okay. You're still fine. You're not doing anything wrong there with HIPAA. And then when you offer the solution, it should be like, we would love to work with you to make sure that you never have to wait an hour and a half again. Call this number, to schedule with us, and we will make it right. Or we have something in mind for you, Mr. John. And, we really can't talk about a lot of these things in Google because of your privacy. We want to make sure that's protected. So why don't you give us a call at practice? And I think even just saying that in your review is like, God, we really want to talk to you about this, but we can't say very much on Google. You have privacy and we'd like to respect that. Please call our practice at this phone number.
That's awesome.
And that's probably the 4 steps I would take.
Yeah.
Acknowledge, validate, apologize, offer a solution, and get it off of the page.
Switching channels. Yeah. So number one, it sounds like you're saying that provide an empathetic response that is contextual to the situation, and offer offer a way so that you are either fixing the problem or making it better for them. And then lastly, switching channels.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And another thing that I see a lot of times on there, it'll be things like they build my insurance company for God, I don't even know, Kleenex. They built my insurance company for Kleenexes and I didn't even get Kleenexes, right? And then the practice will respond, they'll be like, call the practice to resolve. And I'm like, God, you could have just said, hey, we wouldn't like to be billed for things we didn't use either. I'm really sorry about that experience. We have a solution for you. Can't say much, but can you please call us so we can make it right?
Yeah.
Like you can say those things, can you call us so we can make it right? We're going to do something. I don't think you need to you can hint around the fact that you will refund them for whatever they accidentally got billed for or whatever, but you don't have to say, hey, I'm refunding you for the Kleenexes for that surgery that you had on May 25th of, whatever year.
Yeah. It definitely is an art. You don't want to overstep HIPAA, but there are ways to respond in an empathetic fashion without violating privacy, and that gives a satisfactory response to the patient. And during our interaction at that Facebook group, I misspoke by saying that it's not the complainant that matters, but it's the audience that matters.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
the complainant matters, but it's the everyone else who's reading what is going on, the interaction that you're having as a brand with the complainant. That is even more important than how you address the complainant. A lot of people miss
100%.
out on that aspect.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you are addressing a negative review, you're doing it as from human to human, right? You're going to fix that problem, or you're going to do the best you can for whatever that complaint is. Now, we're not talking about the crazy people. We're talking about people that actually had a bad experience. That's the, one side of it. But the other side is you're also on stage. Like there are other people seeing these things happen. And would you want your mother, grandmother, sister, brother, whoever to see you treat somebody poorly? No. Well, then the rest of your audience doesn't need to see you treat somebody poorly by giving a poor response either.
That is absolutely true. You're literally on stage whenever you are dealing with these online reviews. In the past, it's always been one-to-one, phone call, email direct to the practice saying, hey, you guys screwed up. I'm very unhappy. Those people really want a response from the practice. And that's the old way of doing things, older way of doing things. Some people still call, but we don't hear that often. We get more in online reviews and online mentions. And those people who write reviews online, they don't really they don't really want, reparations or making things right. What they want is an audience.
Yeah. There's this podcast I listened to years ago. I think it was one of Tony Robbins, and he was talking about different personality types. The one that sticks out to me is somebody called the score evener, and they exist
evener.
They are a colleague, but they're also a customer. And some of these people write the review because they feel like they're warning somebody, right? Like they think that they were mistreated or had a poor experience. And so they're going to even the score and prevent somebody else from ever having that experience. I don't know if score evener was what he called them, the do-gooder, the karma. People try to serve as that middle ground to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so they don't really want you to fix it. They're trying to give a warning, to the other pack to let them know not to come in and have that same experience.
Or some people will literally tell you that, hey, if you don't write a prescription for narcotics, I'm going to leave you a negative review. If you don't write off my copay, I'm going to go online and flame you.
Dirty.
So
they do.
So that does happen. I mean, the get evener, I guess,
happens.
or maybe the retribution type of a thing.
Yep. They're always up for the revenge or whatever. The blackmailers, they think that they have some sort of power over you because they can write this review. You take that to a next level. There are celebrities, Instagram famous type people who will really use that against you, man. You get one of those people in and they'll be like, if you don't give me my treatment for free, I'm going to post to my 1 million followers about this experience. And God, then your hands really become tied. Some of those people do some some dirty things, but that's an exception, not a rule. You're probably not going to run into those people often in your career. Will you have it? Yeah. In the future, is it more likely? Yes. As things expand and more people go online, yes. But it's not going to be a daily occurrence, that's for sure.
But you can also use that to your advantage. Say you already provide a great service, and then this celebrity or whoever influencer could be a radio host, radio station host, who's been on the air for 15 plus years, who utilizes your services, and now he talks about his scrotum and vasectomy all the time, which may or may not have happened in this practice. And that kind of helps really expand your reach and build and create your brand, consequently making you become the #1 vasectomist in Arizona. So that could happen too. So it's not all bad.
When people talk about so HIPAA does have a lot of pull, and there is concern about patients' privacy. You should always protect patients' privacy. I'm sure most of the good doctors did this before HIPAA came along anyways. But if I was a patient of yours and then I go out and I tell a million people that you did this, I had this procedure, I am very happy with the results, I have waived my right to secrecy about having that procedure done. That's over because I changed that. And you are no longer in charge of protecting the privacy of people knowing that I had that surgery from you because I told people. So there are things that, if somebody says in this review that's very specific about a surgery they had, the day they had it, how they felt afterwards, all these things, when you comment, and let's say it's a good review and it's 5 stars and they're super happy, when you comment, you don't have to be like, Angela, don't talk about your experience here, right? Or, hey, Angela, if we did see you, wink, wink. No, the veil has been lifted. Everybody knows because Angela told everyone in this review she had the surgery. So you can happily respond, we were so happy to have you. You were a wonderful patient. And you don't have to worry about it because she did it.
I err on the side of caution, and I'm still very, I still don't do that.
Yeah.
So yes, I understand that even though they self-disclosed that they had the procedure here, I am not 100% sure that it's a good idea to just say, oh yeah, you had we're happy to serve you. I'm still very cautious about that. And actually some radio hosts may or may not have had me on the air. And the first thing I said was, John, I can neither confirm nor deny whether you had a vasectomy here, because there was no signed release from that person of whether or not, that I can talk about this situation. So you can still participate in the discussion, but you just can't say things that are specific to that particular person who's out there talking about it.
Yeah, and a lot of that, which, I say common sense, but some of it's hard to define, but a lot of it is common sense. If, like you said, you err on the side of caution. Hey, I'm glad that you're happy. We're really happy we made you happy. That's as cautious as you can get. You're never going to get in trouble for saying something along those lines, right? But we're really happy that when you started bleeding out mid-surgery that, you didn't know about it. And now you're still writing a good review. Should you ever say something like that? No way. And I think it's not a problem with the happy people. It's usually a problem with the complaint when somebody is like, I had the worst treatment of my life, and you're like, you left here fat and happy. I don't know what the problem is now, because that's when you really want to go into detail. Not a thing went wrong. That was the most beautiful surgery I've ever performed, and you have nothing to complain about, right?
So one of the things that you can consider doing at the reputation or the review site that we've both are avoiding to mention, that that use extortionist type tactics that is too familiar to small businesses. One of the things that you could consider doing is that if you already built up a large positive repository of positive reviews, in that response to the negative review on that particular platform, you can say, hey, you know what? You're welcomed, because you're playing to not just the complainant, you're playing to the larger audience of everyone reading those responses. You can say that, hey, you know what? Please feel free to check out our over 3,000 positive reviews on this particular platform of happy patients. So you're kind of deflecting, humble bragging, and at the same time saying that, well, I think this review may be slightly unwarranted.
Yes.
Because you do get crazy patients, crazy people reviewing you.
You do. And I think that there's a lot of, sometimes with elderly people, they're not the one complaining, but their child will hear a complaint from them. And so now it's like a game of telephone, and then they'll come on and write this review. and you're like, there's some merit there, but not 100%. And you're a very exaggerated version of, you waited 5 minutes, not 50 minutes type thing. But that's how that, usually goes down. And you just have to be, have the, I guess, gumption there to stand up for yourself in a way that's like, hey, I'm really sorry. It seemed like such a long time. Or we never keep a patient waiting. According to our records, we haven't kept a patient waiting longer than 5 minutes for the last 3 years. I hope this isn't for a different practice, or whatever. You can say stuff like that. Like, that's completely fine.
That's
Have
really
those
good.
responses in there.
I love it.
I hate that, the places where people get upset and then they go and they write reviews on the review site. We keep joking with the restaurant review site, but the places that they go, the problem is when you get an angry person, they go like psycho, and then they'll go on every review site possible, and you'll get like the same complaint from, Bob Smith 500 times. You get it on Google, you get it on Bing, it's on Facebook, it's on your Instagram, they're commenting on your photos, and they go to, 3 other review sites, and you're like, whoa, geez, just chill. So then you find yourself responding to all these reviews all over the place. Like, why am I even taking the time to do that with this crazy person? But it's not for him at that point. He went on a tirade. You're just addressing it because now, like I said, you're on stage. You got to do it for your potential patient somewhere else.
100%. It is so true. These are the angry people who are just using the platforms to potentially hurt you, or I call it they're trying to cancel you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. And there are, you don't get canceled if you didn't do something wrong. Like, cancel culture is very real, but you don't have to be worried about that if you are a good, like, outstanding professional who is not intentionally doing bad things. The people that get canceled are people who are like knowingly hurting people, damaging something, obstructing healthcare in some way, shape, or form. Like, those are the people who will get speed under that cancellation thing.
Well, not necessarily so, because you can get a group of people who don't believe in your particular view, and then they can try to cancel you. But anyway, we're
That's
deviating
true.
off
And
topic.
well, one thing I always try to tell people, and I will tell everybody this to the day I die, is, you don't stop talking politics and religion and whatever. Don't have these controversial things all over your social media. It should be nowhere near your business. To be honest with you, I have met so many people, and I'm guilty of this. You have to stop yourself and rethink. But like, you meet somebody, you're like, I thought they were so smart until they told me they voted for so-and-so. And then you have to like stop yourself and be like, no, this is the media. This is like, we live in this world of algorithms that's just feeding me what I want to see. They are smart. They're entitled to their opinion. But
That's exactly
not everybody
right.
has that like way to stop that. So if you think like, I don't care, everybody who's smart enough knows that I voted for so-and-so and it's not going to impact my business, well, you're wrong. It does. Everywhere. It does.
Or you can say, well, here's the other perspective. You can pick, like I mentioned at the very beginning, you can pick your ideal avatar and pick the type of patients that you want to see, pick the type of audience or customers you want to see. And there are businesses that cater to a particular political perspective. So that's another way to leverage that relationship. So it could be good and it could be bad.
Yeah, for sure. There are definitely things. I think the people that can get away with that kind of leveraging are usually things like restaurants, bars, like hairstylists, barbershops, the things that are like people can pick and choose where they go. And they're like, I'm going to support that person because they're really doing what I believe in. But the other, like the medical, the aesthetics, I think just stay away from that, because I would rather see a client of mine like build themselves up and be a larger brand and become like the industry expert in their area than try to isolate 50% of the population and go with only the people that have the same views or beliefs as them.
I totally agree. You want to try to be inclusive. So that is really important. You try not to isolate yourself by pigeonholing your practice to a particular political affiliation. I mean, that is pretty extreme. I'm not aware. Well, actually, in Florida, I remember seeing somebody, some urology practice saying that if you support one particular person, we don't welcome you. That's pretty extreme.
Ooh, that's rough. Yeah, that's hard. And also, medical code of ethics, right? Like, at some point, you agree to treat patients regardless of like race, gender, or like, don't you agree to? And I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but like at some point, don't you agree to like give fair treatment to everybody? Isn't that part of like becoming a doctor?
We agreed to do no harm, and I treated all kinds of people.
Yeah, people you don't like, you're always like, God, as a human, I would never hang out with you, but I'm going to treat you and I'm going to do very good for you because that's my
100%, 100%.
job.
Totally, and I have some great discussions with patients who I know are leaning to one particular side of this political spectrum, and we have great intellectual conversations because there's no judgment. I mean, I respect their perspective, and I'm more interested in knowing why they feel that way, and maybe I can learn something from it. So anyway, it's always about being empathetic, and what you said on how to respond to these negative reviews is key. Is acknowledging that something happened. And in your example responses, you said that, hey, it would be terrible. I can't imagine this happened to you. You are being empathetic to that particular person.
Yes. And when people feel heard, this is because our whole thing today was, reviews and angry patients in person. So this really is for like people in person too. People want to be heard. They want to know that you're listening. If you've ever questioned that, then have any sort of romantic relationship in your life and try to have a conversation where you're not listening to them and they will call you out on it so fast, right? Like, well, it's the same thing with your patients and friends and your family and your relationships. When people are upset, they want to know that you heard them. And it's not necessarily about what you will do after you hear them, but just the fact that they were heard, that somebody stood there and literally look them in the eyes if they're in person, but with the review especially, you need to give that vibe like, hey, I'm hearing you. I am sorry you had to wait so long, or I'm sorry if you had to wait that long, or whatever you need to say, right? Like, if you're not sorry for something, but even just saying that sounds really frustrating. Understandable if you're upset if that happened, but we need to talk about it. So you're going to have to give us a call, if you didn't do anything wrong, that type of response. But even just saying, I heard you, I'm listening, here's how we can make it better, or here's how you can call me, here, what number can I reach you at to call you, send me a message here, whatever. Just doing that, you might be surprised. There are people that will go back in and change the review from 1 stars to 3, never give you a call, but edit it and say, I'm changing to 3 stars because they were really kind with the response, or I'm changing it to whatever because they did try to make it better.
Yep. Edit to add. Edit to add.
Yep.
I will say this. It's difficult. It's difficult to have, for some people, to have that, to listen. And I will broadly just generalize that men, we are not good with this eye-to-eye interaction and listening to you. We want to just do. We want to fix. So whereas women in general, they are a lot more empathetic. I mean, this is just big generalization. You women are much better at hearing people, and that's why I think my so many people love to talk to my wife and just dump all sorts of issues on her because she's such a good listener, and that's something I'm working on. Is having that visual interaction and response, and really listen. And
even just being cognizant enough to be like, I need to work on my listening, is you're already miles ahead of 20 years ago when you thought you didn't have anything to work on,
Yeah, not knowing what you don't know. That's really key, is to recognize that. Dr. Dardashti said that should the doctor write the response to the negative review or the administrator? And also a follow-up question from me, should you respond to positive reviews?
I don't think it matters if the doctor physically writes the response. I think a representative from your practice is completely fine. Whoever is in charge of responding to the reviews, they need to embrace that like ideology as well, that like they need to be on board with your idea that you're going to be empathetic and that you're going to respond a certain way. So you should sit down and have that conversation with them, like, this is what a good response is going to look like, or, hey, I saw you responded to Bob's review and I don't like the way that you said this and this, we need to do this instead. Then, a representative from you and your practice is completely fine. I don't think it matters. Now, if they are specifically saying bad things about the doctor, or like you do feel that you want to take this one, like, hey, I saw what Susan wrote about me and I want to be the one to respond to it. Okay, Tim, you just let me do this one. Then, you take that. And what was the second part of that question?
Oh, I said, should you respond to every positive review as well?
I say yes. I think that you responding to your positive reviews and saying thank you is just a form of gratitude. And when you put that gratitude out there, people see that and it puts good energy within the practice. Like if I were to look at you, if I were to be there in person and be like, thank you so much. You are the best doctor I've ever had. And you're like, and you walk away, that would be super weird, right? So if somebody takes the time, they took time out of their schedule to grab their phone, write you the review, even if it was 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, then you can have your desk or yourself take the time to say, thanks so much, at least.
That's what I do. I agree. So I agree. And my sentiment is exactly what you said. If someone took the time and energy to leave a review, the least that I can do is to say, "Hey, thank you so much for doing that." It's like that. It's the digital thank you card.
Yep.
It's the
It is.
digital thank you card for giving me this invaluable currency of third-party validation or social proof that it's going to benefit me tremendously.
Yep. Absolutely. I definitely think it's a good thing. And outside of being a good person, so you're like, I don't care if people know I'm grateful or not. I'm not going to respond. It takes too much time. Even if you're in that mindset, which I don't agree with, but let's say you are, another reason that you should respond to those is, and this is not like confirmed, I don't think Google has ever confirmed this, but in my experience, I have noticed that the reviews that are responded to help your SEO. So I personally believe that the more that you have going on within Google, within your reviews, within your responses to reviews, I think that helps your website rank better. So if you're like, I don't care if people know I'm grateful, but I do care if my website's ranking #1 on the search engine response page, then do it for that because I think it helps you rank as well.
There's so many things there's just so many moving parts. And the you mentioned Google algorithm that I think, well, I've read that that algorithm being tuned is it's machine learning. It's
Yeah.
more AI based now. So marketers who try to predict or try to figure out, well, how do I hack the SEO? Back in the day, you could use meta tags and word stuffing. Those days are gone. So
Yeah.
it's a lot more organic and it's a lot more encompassing instead of just this is the one thing or two, three things that you have to do, unfortunately. And being ranked on the top 3 of Google in your search criteria, I think, as we all know, the organic results are going to benefit you a lot more than a paid ad.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say like paid ads are your short term. If you need a patient tomorrow, you need a paid ad. Your long term game is SEO. That is going to last a long time. It will be there longer. It gets bigger. It's a snowball going downhill. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And your competition can't catch up to you if they're just getting started and you're already, Frosty the Snowman down at the bottom of the hill. So it's definitely good to have that SEO on there. I think a lot with medical practices too, a lot of people do research, and the more information you have on your website, on your Google, on your Facebook, whatever, the more legitimate that you look, the more knowledgeable you look, I think the more likely they are to choose you as the doctor.
All right. We also have a couple more comments. Dr. Finkelstein's asked, how do you manage someone who is not following the rules on a Facebook group? I'm not quite sure what that means.
That means like he probably owns a Facebook group, and then are people making like negative comments or going on and posting bad things? And then what do you do with those people?
Yeah.
If that's the case, you kick them right out. I mean, if they're not following the rules of the group that you have, I would say one warning message to them directly, like one-on-one, hey, we don't allow cursing in this group, and you keep posting and commenting with curse words. I like to have you here, but if you can't stop the next time I see it, you're out. I'm going to remove you.
And I have another great question by Bianca, who asked, what if you receive a positive letter or card, old school now, from patient? Can you post that information if you have patient's permission?
Oh, yeah. I think if a patient writes like a thank you note to you and you're like, I loved that thank you note. It was so beautiful. Would you mind if I take a picture and put it online? And they say yes, or you email them, that was so thoughtful of you, whatever. They say no problem. Absolutely. Like hold a picture of yourself and the thank you note and be like, we love getting thank you notes from our patients. And another thing you can do too is you can hold a thank you note. Most of them are just a bifold there. You can hold it with the front and not open it up and just be like, we love getting thank you notes. You didn't say who it was from, what it says in there, but you got that message out to people that we got a thank you note and we want more.
That's brilliant. Yeah, just holding up the card. There's so many, and you can post it up on a story for your brand, or you can post it as a regular post. So there's so many different ways to distribute that content or information, if you wish. And it's not just here's the verbiage of all the details with the patient's name. So often you can just hold up the card and like you said, just say, hey, we love getting these thank you cards to encourage that type of behavior.
Right. And also, when you think about thank you notes, most of the thank you notes I have, at least, they sign with their first name and they don't ever say anything personal in there. It's usually something like, thank you so much for XYZ. I really appreciate whatever. Cheers, Bob. And so even if you show the inside of that note, you are not saying anything about who Bob is, their last name, that they had treatment, like nothing. You're giving nothing away there. So I really wouldn't be too worried about posting those.
That's wonderful. Great advice. Anything else that you think that is imperative for medical practices to know regarding online reputation management, negative reviews?
Yeah, I mean, I would say as far as responding to your negative reviews, like acknowledgement, validation, apology, and offering a solution would be your 4 steps to take. But the most important thing, and probably the most annoying thing to hear me say, is get good reviews before. Like, be prepared before the day comes that you only have 3 reviews and they're all bad because you haven't asked anybody for a good one. Don't put yourself in that situation.
Great. Great advice. Thank you so much, Angie, for sharing this invaluable, just absolutely invaluable information, not just for medical practices, but I think for all businesses. And once again, congratulations on your recent nuptials.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you again for having me. And, anything else in the future? I know we had talked about like competing against big brands, like hospital brands, the Mercies out there, whatever. If we want to sit down and do another one, just let me know. We can jump on.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much for watching. If you all have any questions or comments, please leave them below. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen. Take care and have a good day. Bye-bye.